If you're looking for a series which might give you goosebumps, then you've come to the right place. Today, I'll be explaining the supernatural psychological thriller Behind Her Eyes. So let's just start right away. Behind Her Eyes is a story of a single mother, Louise, who is a divorcee living with her son Adam. Louise is getting ready for a date night. She gets ready and looks good too. Unfortunately, her date bails while she was waiting in the bar. Finishing up her drink, she moves out, but collides with a handsome man, causing his drink to spill on his shirt. She apologizes and gets him his expensive drink, for he did not behave rudely. They talk and soon become friendly. The night comes to a close, but they couldn't resist but kiss each other. David soon breaks the kiss as if he felt guilty and moves away, while Louise was a bit taken aback. Reaching her office the next day, Louise soon finds out that her new boss has come. She takes a peek and finds David sitting in Dr. Sharma's office. Louise felt embarrassed and locked herself in the washroom for 30 minutes, for she could not face him for now. Louise slept, and we see her dreaming about pills falling, her dead mother, and Adam running in a freaky hallway. What makes the situation more worse is her habit of sleepwalking, because when she woke up, she found herself in the bathroom. Now we see David, who is a psychiatrist, with his wife Adele. When he was leaving for his office, we see that Adele is taking pills of some sort. After she takes a pill in front of David, he leaves. Adele comes to lay on her bed and starts counting her fingers, and we get a glimpse of a forest and particularly a well. That day, Louise faced David and he was shocked to see her but wasn't disappointed. Instead, he was happy to see her. They promised to forget what happened in the bar and played professionally. In the next scene, we can see the intense tension between both. David asked Adele when were they gonna stop changing their places again and again. He felt miserable, but Adele comforted him and said it was the last time and everything was gonna be okay. Though Adele and David spent an intimate night, David's mood was off. Adele remembers her past when she was in a psychiatric institution. She meets a patient, Rob, who knew why she was here. She was there for the treatment of the traumatic stress and dreams after her parents died in a horrible fire at home, and Rob becomes friend with her, who was there because of his addiction to drugs. In the next scene, David tries to talk and get friendly to Louise, but as Louise knew he had a wife, she avoided him. Now Louise slept and had that same traumatizing dream, and while she was running after Adam, she sleepwalked towards her balcony, and before she could fall, she woke up and terrified, she cried. Next day, Adam was back from spending his weekend at his father's, Ian. Ian had plans to take Adam to a trip to France, which Louise refused right away. Adam was excited for the trip, but seeing her mother refuse, he felt angry and hated her. She shared her feelings with Sophie that she could not let Adam away from her side, and Sophie told that Adam would leave when he gets old no matter what, and that she should find quality time for herself instead. Convinced, Louise let Adam go with his father to the trip. After dropping Adam at school, she collided with Adele, who quickly befriended her. After knowing she worked with her husband, they both had coffee together. Louise even shared about the constant dreams she was having. Adele finds it interesting. She told her that once she had night terrors too. They exchanged numbers, and when David called Adele to find out where she was, she lied and didn't tell him about her new friend she made. She told David that she was out to buy some paints. David said that he'll call once she gets back home. Now we see Adele remembering her past. When she got a call from David in her psychiatric institution, she told about Rob, the new friend she made. And as audience, we come to know now that Rob was gay. Adele breaks from her recall when she gets a call on the landline. She talks to David. David called the landline to make sure she was back home. He did not call on her cell phone as earlier, which denotes that he did not want Adele to socialize much. Adele gets angry and paints fiercely, and once she is finished, this was the same forest she kept dreaming about. We see the well, and going deep in that well, we hear a ticking of a watch. Adele goes to her store and finds the book written by Rob. She reads the first page and it was written, "Pinch myself and say I'm awake once an hour. Look at my hands and count my fingers. Look at the clock or watch. Look away, look back. Stay calm and focused. Think about a door." And as soon as she was finished reading, she starts counting her fingers. Now we see in the past that same watch in the well was worn by Adele while hanging with her friend Rob. She told him she was rich and lived in a castle. Next day, Adele texted Louise that she wanted her to go to the gym. Without replying, when Louise gets to the office, she comes to know that David was not in a good mood today. And she said yes to Adele and agreed to accompany her to the gym, as David had treated Louise rudely that day. She went with Adele, and that day she came to know how Adele's parents died in a fire and how David was there to save her from the fire. Insisting Louise to go with her to her home, Adele gives her Rob's notebook. She said that this book will help her fight off her dreams and night terrors. Louise went home, taking the book with her, and Adam was ready to go to his trip to France with his father. Louise read that book, and that night David came to see her because she had taken a day off. They both were close and spent an intimate night, and David starts ignoring Adele afterwards. Louise couldn't help but feel guilty for her behavior, for she was dating a married man and was a friend to that same woman at that same time. Meeting Adele, she comes to know that David was not treating Adele right. Louise was practicing the instructions written on Rob's book about pinching herself every hour, counting her fingers, and telling herself that she was awake. She read how Rob fought away his nightmare when finally one day he was able to tell himself that it's just a dream. He found his door, and now he was able to convert his dream to whatever he wanted. This fascinated Louise, and she felt determined to find her door. Now we see that David was forcing Adele to take her medication, for David had her medicine changed. Adele's behavior felt odd to him. As soon as David left, Adele vomited her medicine, which shows she never took her medicine. As Louise was ignoring David after she felt guilty, finally she decided that she should be concerned about her own feelings and what she wanted rather than taking care of others. David and Louise were close, although Louise's friend Sophie told her to stay away from both of them. Louise's dream continued to terrify her until one day finally she found her door and found a way to dream whatever she wanted. On the other hand, Adele, being continuously avoided by David, fell in a brawl with a drug addict and got a black eye. She lied about a bruise and said it was a hit from the cupboard, not that she went to the junkies to get some drugs. She recalls her past when Rob was worried that David might only be with her for he must be after her riches, for she owned a fortune. She said David loved her and was the one who saved her life. She bought the watch she wore for David, but as his arms were burnt from the fire he saved her from, he couldn't wear the watch. Coming back to the present, she met David patient. Upon seeing Adele's black eye, that boy thought that maybe Dr. Ferguson hit her. He told his parents, and his parents complained about David's behavior to Dr. Sharma. Dr. Sharma inquired afterwards, but Adele refused the allegation and said she did not want to report the presence of the boy on her doorstep, for she didn't want him to get in any trouble. Now back to Louise, we see her dreaming her soothing dream until she finds a second door in her dream. But before she could open the second door, she woke up. Looking for an answer, she read Rob's book and knew how Rob feared David and how much he cared for Adele. Now we see Adele lying on her bed, counting her fingers and falling asleep. She sees a dream and enters her door, and strangely, we see David and Louise talking in their office, and it seems as if someone was watching them. Adele was reacting to whatever David was saying. As David confessed his love to Louise, she screamed. Adele was able to watch and hear them. She was there with them without them knowing. Adele, after her gym workout, asks for a membership for Louise. She asked the receptionist to confirm her membership by calling her at home after 6, and 6 was the time when David was usually at home. David had no idea that his wife and Louise were friends, and now Adele planned to reveal the truth. Recalling her past, we see Rob coming to meet Adele in her castle, for he promised to visit her after they were discharged from the rehab. Rob comes to know that David was also visiting them at weekend. The call from the gym came, and David was shocked to hear Louise's name for confirmation. Looking for Adele's phone, he read that they were both friends, and demanding to get some answers, he came to Louise's house. He felt betrayed and asked Louise to stay away when Louise said she believed it was him who hit her. David was furious and asked her for her resignation, otherwise he would show her chat to Dr. Sharma. Louise had no choice but to leave. She felt broken and she came to confront Adele, but she was shocked to see Adele in her limp position. She tried to wake her up, but she was unresponsive, until finally Adele woke up with a loud gasp. She was drugged, for she took heroin. Louise saw her medication and thought that David gave Adele all the pills which caused sedation. David was back home and he felt exhausted. He said he was tired from all the drama, and Adele told him that they were both bound to each other, for they could not leave but have to stay together. David had no choice but to take care of Adele forever. As Adam was back from his trip, Louise finally felt on track. She met her friend Sophie, but broke her friendship with her, for Louise thought that she made her feel miserable, for Sophie was asking her to stay away from Adele. Louise was blinded by the friendship she had with Adele, and for Adele, she secretly goes to David's office and steals Adele's file he had and brought it to Adele. Adele told her how miserable she was with David and how he took all of her property. Adele said that maybe it was David who killed Rob. Louise fell asleep, while reading Rob's book, and in her dream, she finds her second door. As soon as she steps into the door, she was able to see things, her child Adam, and even the empty glass on his table. Waking up, she goes to her son's room and finds the thing as they were seen in her dream, even that empty glass. But she felt confused as she was lying on her couch all this time. She searched for Rob on the web and found his sister instead. David came to Louise and demanded to give him his key, for he knew she stole Adele's file. But Louise already gave it to Adele. Now we see Adele, who tries something unique with Rob in the past. They both lie down and count their fingers. Soon they fell asleep, and we see their souls separating from their bodies. They could detach themselves from the body and can be anywhere in the world. They could move and see and visit anything and anywhere. But to visit a place, they must first see it. Coming back to their bodies, Rob thanked Adele for showing him such a wonder. They searched it and knew that it was called astral projection. Adele tells him that she was doing the same when her parents died that night and she was somewhere else in the world. If it wasn't for David, who rescued her, she would have been dead by now. The next day, David arrived, and Rob was mesmerized to see him. Scene shifts, and we see Louise, who concluded that it was David who killed Rob. She sent a letter to the investigating officer after she contacted Rob's sister, who told her that it has been 10 years and she haven't heard of Rob. In her dream that night, Louise saw her second door, and as she stepped in, she could see everything through astral projection. Adam started crying, for she was not waking up. She came back to her body and comforted Adam, but now she understood everything, that Adele was planning everything from the beginning. Adele knew things she shouldn't because she was watching her the whole time. She knew that David had an affair. She came to Louise so she could lure her to believe that David was the real culprit who killed Rob and treated her badly. Louise meets Marianne, who was David's girlfriend before they moved here. She told that how Adele threatened her to leave David, otherwise she would kill her. She asked Louise to stay away from them, for they were dangerous. Louise met David afterwards and told she believed him. And David told her how Adele and Rob had heroin, and according to Adele, he overdosed himself purposely. Instead of calling the police, she dumped his body in the well. The watch she gifted David fell into the well as well, which clearly pointed to David as the murderer. That day, he started fearing Adele. But now, as Louise had posted the letter to the officer, he took courage and said he will inform everything now. Louise came back home and told how David had gone to tell the authorities. Adele was ruined, for she saw David getting away from her despite her constant efforts. She decided to attempt suicide. She wrote a letter in which she confessed her crime. She prepared a heroin syringe and put in a drawer with gloves. She texted Louise and didn't answer when she called to stop her from doing this. She took a heroin shot and fell asleep when her house was on fire. Louise called the police and came to her rescue before they could arrive. Louise couldn't get through the bolted door. She knew the only way that she could help her was through astral projection. She planned to get in her body and get herself out, but as she fell asleep and entered Adele's body, Adele's soul entered Louise, who was outside. It was a planned attempt. Louise's soul was in Adele's body, but she couldn't move because of the effect of the drug, and Adele's soul was in Louise's body. She told Louise that she could never take David away from her, and overdosing her with another heroin shot, she kills Louise. Now, Adele was in a new body. She took everything that Louise owned, even her son and David. Towards reaching the end of this series, we see that Rob and Adele were lying on the ground. They agreed on trying something unique with their astral projection. They exchanged bodies with each other. But after entering Rob's body, Adele couldn't move because she was not used to the effect of the drug. Then suddenly, Rob came up and thanked her for such a miracle. She begged him to not kill her, but Rob gave her an overdose and killed Adele. Rob took Adele in Rob's body and dumped her in the well. So all along, it was Rob who fell in love with David and riches of Adele. He was the real mastermind behind such a crime, and he was the one who stayed with David for the whole time. We see that Adele was gone a long time, and it's Rob who was after David, and he even married him a second time using Louise's body. And that's how the series comes to a close. I hope you liked my explanation. I want you all to give my video a thumbs up and subscribe my channel for more content. Until next time, hasta la vista!